right, welcome to another episode of the Bella Grace podcast, where we are helping you transform your life, mind, body, and soul. Whether you are struggling to find balance, using unhealthy behaviors or substances to cope, or you just want to unlock the root cause of what's holding you back from living your best life, Bella Grace Coaching can help you transform your life, mind, body, and soul. And this week we are talking about
Control. So today we're talking about control, giving it up and taking it back.
Yes. Okay. So, control. When I think about the word control, I think about a controlling person. But that's not really the only definition of control.
No.
That's not really the only way to think about control.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, for a lot of years, I was a control freak because I was scared. But it took a lot of digging and working for me to figure out that that's why I needed to be in control of everything.
Yeah.
Was out of fear.
Yeah.
So, do you have control issues?
You know what? So when you think about control, some people would think about a remote control because
Yeah.
that's basically what it is. It's something you have in your hands
Mhm.
and you can change the channel, the music, everything within your control, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So, and sometimes we do that uh, because we were not in control of certain situations. When we were little, we were put in unhealthy, unsafe situations.
Mhm.
We were scared. So we didn't have a say. Our
Right.
opinions, our word did not matter. So
Mhm.
we grow up thinking and being scared and thinking that we need to take everything into our hands because we're scared. Because if we take control of our lives and ourselves, then we're in control.
Yeah.
We can
Nothing
feel
bad can
safe.
happen to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when we try to control everything, which is
Mhm.
also overwhelming.
Mhm.
And it can be exhausting and takes a lot of energy
Yeah.
because I know people who walk on eggshells
All the
who,
time.
yes,
Yeah.
because they're like, I can't talk too much, I can't do this too much, or I'm overdoing it, or okay, they're overthinkers as well
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the same reason because they want to be in control of
Of
every situation of
everything.
their lives and
Mhm.
everything. So
Yeah.
your question, you asked me if I'm a control freak, and you know what? Yeah, I can be a
Yeah.
control freak because I also used to try to control, like when I was younger. I
Mhm.
used to try to control what I would say, how
Mhm.
I would react around my friends,
Yeah.
because I grew up in a household full of drama and chaos
Mhm.
that I was afraid to be judged,
Yeah.
to say the wrong thing and be
Mhm.
criticized or put to shame.
Yeah. I'm
So,
glad you brought that up.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I would control that. I would, but it was exhausting and it was draining and
Mhm.
it was depressing as well because I
Yeah.
couldn't be myself.
Yeah.
So when you're growing up like that, you tend to go into these patterns of control.
Yeah.
And then when you have nothing else and you're exhausted, you're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
Because you're not living a good life.
Yeah, because you can only push
Yeah.
yourself so far being in that constant control. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad you brought that up. If you haven't listened to Rosie's story, it is season 2, I believe. Yes, it was season 2, and I think it was called Unraveling Childhood Trauma.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you brought it up because kids who grow up in a unstable environment as a
Mm-hmm.
child.
Yeah.
So they grow up in a family situation where they are food insecure, they are love insecure, they are safety insecure, any of those things like
That
food,
place.
safety, shelter,
Mm-hmm.
love. If you are insecure in those things, like you're in fight or flight mode
Yeah.
constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And you control, like you said, you control what you say, you control what you want, you control, like you're constantly trying to control every aspect of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Because you're constantly picking up on your surroundings,
Mm-hmm.
the moods, the voice tones, everything.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
have to pay attention. If you have to, is dad drunk?
Mhm.
Okay, if dad's drunk, then I need to not say these things. I need to not act this way because then he's going to fly off the handle. Maybe mom's depressed.
Mhm.
She's having one of her down days.
Mhm.
And so I need to make sure that I'm on my best behavior. I need to make sure that I'm catering to her so that she doesn't spend more days in the bedroom with the curtains closed. Like, when you grow up in a home that is dysfunctional, and I use that word because it's a clinical word, just that's what we say,
Yeah.
dysfunctional family, is when there is mental health issues, substance abuse issues, poverty, sickness, like physical health issues. Anytime you have anger issues, anytime you have those types of things, those children tend to grow up to have control issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because they feel like they need to control everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you break free? When did you break free from that? Or are you still a control freak?
I am not a control freak anymore. It took a lot of work. So I grew up in a family where my mom was a drinker. She went
Okay.
out a lot. That's how she coped with the death of my dad. My
Mhm.
dad died when I was 8. So my need for control honestly starts probably before my parents divorced. I didn't realize it for a long time,
Mhm.
but my parents had a really tumultuous relationship. Like, my dad could fly off at any moment. Like, he would go from fun, easygoing dad to he would snap his fingers and everyone was terrified. But I didn't realize that. Like, my brain didn't pick up on that,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm.
I thought my childhood from when
That was pretty normal for you.
yeah, it was normal.
Yeah.
Well, and my dad treated me so well
Yeah.
that I didn't see
That
the
was
drama,
yeah.
right? But it was there. And there's a really good book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
And it's about I've given
I
it to
think I
you.
have that
Yeah,
book and
I gave it
I
to you to
haven't
read.
read it.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's on
hard.
my
Yeah.
read.
It's a tough read. But it's all about how your body holds on to the
Mm.
trauma,
Yeah.
even if your brain doesn't register that it's happening. And
Mm-mm.
so there obviously my parents would fight and I just never knew. There's a cat in the fireplace right
It's
now,
not a
guys.
rat.
Yeah.
Wait,
But
it's a little kitten rat.
so my parents would fight apparently, and my body remembers that being scared, right? And
Yeah.
then one day my brother came home and he had caught my dad cheating on my mom,
Mm.
and we left. My mom packed us up and we left the next day. So
Mm.
from one day to the next, I went from having this picture perfect family, the only thing I'd ever known, my dad, my brothers, my mom, to living with my grandparents and then living in a really rundown rental property with my mom. And we had nothing. We went from a 2-story,
Mhm.
upper middle class suburban lifestyle to living a life of poverty because my mom didn't have a job. She was a stay at home mom. And
Yeah.
then I started kindergarten. So this happened the summer before I started kindergarten. Then
Yeah.
I started kindergarten,
Wow.
and then my dad got custody of us around halfway through my kindergarten year. So I had to start a new kindergarten at the beginning of
You did not have any control of
right.
the situation, of the circumstances,
Mhm.
of everything. You were
Yeah.
just pushed in an environment and you were just okay.
Yeah, and so I
Yeah.
didn't have a traumatic childhood like you did,
Mm.
like so many people
Mhm.
did, but I did lose control, and
Yeah.
I felt out of control. Cause
And me working with children, I know that children a lot of times when they're going through things that they feel out of control.
Mhm.
And it's true. Children or they don't know what control is
Right.
because they just know they want to play, they want to do all these
Yeah.
things. So then once they're in constant in a in an environment that it's unstable,
An unknown.
yes,
Yeah.
they become scared, they
Mhm.
become unsure,
Unsure,
they
yeah.
become unsafe, they become their self-esteem
Insecure.
is yeah, their
Yeah.
confidence, everything is low. So then they're learning to survive in that environment. So they
Mhm.
learn to cope and they learn to isolate as well in order for them to cope. They and what I mean by isolate is that they learn to what is that word? Dissociate.
Yeah.
And that's what you
Yeah.
did. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's what I did as
Yeah.
well. And you do that because that's how you're able to survive in
It's a
those.
safety mechanism.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
it is. It's a safety mechanism.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, dissociation happens a lot in traumatic experiences. So if sexual abuse survivors, physical abuse survivors, people do it when they are involved in like a bank robbery. It's
Mhm.
any time that there's a traumatic experience and you kind of float away. In the body keeps the score. Some of the people
Yeah.
that they interviewed talk about how they were actually like hovering over their own body when the abuse was happening, so that the abuse was happening to their body, but it wasn't happening to their mind, right? They
Wow.
completely dissociate.
Yeah.
It's like you travel out of your body into this safe world where you're
Mm.
not
Yeah.
experiencing the trauma. And kids do it
Mm.
whenever they're in a situation when they don't feel safe. Like they go
Yeah.
into pretend land or to
Yeah.
their make believe place, or they
Mhm.
start playing with imaginary friends.
Yeah.
And it's a coping mechanism. It's a safety mechanism that your brain turns on to try to protect you from that trauma.
Mhm.
But your body remembers.
Yeah, always. And it
Yes.
keeps the score.
And it keeps
Yeah.
the score
And
like the
then
book. Yeah.
and you were telling me this when we were talking last year, and I
Mhm.
was talking about my testimony. You were like, "Well, women hold all their traumatic experience and feelings and everything in their
The
what is
hips and reproductive
there
system.
you
Yeah.
go. And
Mhm.
men hold it where? And
The stomach and the digestive tract. So
yeah.
it's central to your abdomen, like it's
Mhm.
all in here, but we women tend to hold their trauma in their hips and their reproductive
Yeah.
system. Yeah.
So when someone's controlling, I'm always like, I wonder why they feel like that. Like I
Mhm.
want to know. And I feel like some people are controlling and they don't realize they are controlling
Yeah. They
and
don't.
others or themselves or everything around them.
Mhm.
But until
Because
someone
it's that coping mechanism. It's
because
your brain's way of trying to
yes,
protect you.
yes,
Yeah.
and until someone else points it out, and the best way that someone can point it out is when they're mirroring you
Oh yeah.
because they're in a relationship with you, and then you're like, "What? I'm toxic?" Or like, "What? I'm not controlling."
Yeah.
Or but controlling it is it's in different ways
Mhm.
because I can be a control freak
Yeah.
sometimes, and not in my marriage or more like I have to have a place for everything in my home.
Okay.
So when
Yeah.
something is out of its place, it bothers me. It
Yeah.
triggers me. I'm like,
I was gonna say because you don't strike me as a
no,
control
no,
freak, and like if I suggest something, she's like, "Yeah, let's do it."
no, I am. I'm very laid back. And I guess because from a young age, I realized that people cannot be controlled.
Yeah.
People can manipulate you
Mhm.
and control you that way. And I know the difference, but I never been in a relationship where I was controlling
Mhm.
or but I've been in a relationship where that other person would manipulate me
Yeah.
and control me that way. And I was so young and so gullible that I didn't realize because I was so used to being around adults who were controlling,
Yeah.
possessive, and toxic and manipulative that I didn't realize that I had fallen into that.
Yeah.
So
Because it was so normal to
yeah,
you.
until
Yeah.
one day, I don't know what happened. It's just like the Lord just woke me up and I saw
Yeah.
what was like the patterns and how why I was in that relationship I
Mhm.
was. And it's because I saw it all my life.
Yeah.
I with the adults around me, like controlling, whether it was the children or anything. But
Yeah.
I realized that I had fallen into that. I had fallen in a
Mhm.
toxic, controlling relationship because I had seen that and I was used to it.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
your normal.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But I
Yeah.
am the type of person that if I If I see the soap is out of its place, it's not where I left it, and or where I want it to be. It drives me
That
nuts, and
drives
I'm
you
like,
crazy.
"Who touched this? Where does this go?"
Okay, so
In
I
the
am kind
kitchen.
of that way
Why?
too.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, it bugs me, and I think that's the way that I'm controlling,
Control,
like,
yeah.
in my house, like, I have to have things a certain way, which
Mhm.
I feel like it maybe it's like a OCD, obsessive.
Compulsive disorder, yeah.
Yeah, where sometimes I go into these, like, cleaning, modes where I have to clean everything
Mhm.
and organize everything by either the shape or the color or whatever it is. And then I realize that I need to go and do the other counter too. And if I'm already doing the kitchen, might as well finish it and then go to the restroom and then go somewhere else. And I'm just like, oh my God, someone help me because now I'm in this pattern where there's no door. Like, stop. And I'm like, why am I being? I feel like I'm being too much. Then I'm like, okay, I need to relax because
Yeah,
a home, it's supposed to be a safe home, not a prison.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not to, no one's gonna come here and judge me and say the toothpaste cap is off. You know?
Yeah, but was so when we're in situations like the way we you grew up. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
guys, it is a madhouse here. So all the racket going on is one of the kittens crawling up my sliding glass door screen.
So we have Simba, we have Tarzan right there,
Yeah.
we have Lion King,
Yeah.
we have a little rat right here. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
And the chihuahua is having none of it.
And then
So
you have
she's
a
barking.
flamingo right here, and then you have a peacock right here.
Yes.
I mean, it's a jungle
It's
up
a
in here.
jungle.
It's a madhouse. And we can't control that,
I
y'all. We try.
know, I know. I tried. I tried to send all the kittens away, and this one is the only one that's awake, and she's just going
You
crazy.
see, you can't control
So
anything. So
no.
some people try to control relationships.
Oh yeah,
I mean, friendships too.
friendships. Yeah.
Some people try to control a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Need to be in control of everything so they don't lose it.
Yeah.
Some people try to control, I guess that's right.
Yeah. No, I was very controlling in relationships. Well, in one relationship. So after my daughter's dad went to prison, I
Mm,
was engaged, and I've told you this story, but
yeah.
and some people who listen already know it, but I was engaged and my fiance passed away 6 weeks before our wedding. Like we had the venue, we had the DJ, we had the
Mm,
photographer, like we were literally 6 weeks away from the wedding. It was the week before my bridal shower. I had friends over and we were addressing wedding invitations to get them in the mail the next day. And he he took an over the counter cough and cold medicine and a prescription opiate that was really,
mm.
really strong. And for people who don't know, opiates are painkillers. And so
Wow.
he was sick. He'd been sick. He had strep throat. And he told me I was very frustrated because at that point I was in college studying to be an addiction counselor. And so I knew like drug interactions, I
Yeah.
knew all this stuff.
Okay.
And I noticed that he was kind of lethargic. He was kind of falling asleep sitting up. He couldn't hold his eyes open anymore. And I said, "What did you take?" And because I had already given him the over the counter cough and cold medicine, and he told me what he had taken. And I said, "I'm going to come in here and find you not breathing." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "You took two things that had acetaminophen, and that can be fatal. It can kill you."
Mm.
And so we spent my bridesmaids were over addressing the wedding invitations. We probably checked on him every 10 minutes for about an hour and a half. And I thought that the danger zone had cleared because typically you start to metabolize the drugs within about 30-45 minutes. By the time it gets to your stomach and your body starts to
Wow.
process it. So I thought we were clear. I went around the room or around the house and put everybody to bed because we were drinking wine and addressing wedding invitations. So everybody was spending the night.
Mhm.
And I put everybody to bed, and then I went back in and I found him. He was blue, his fingernails were blue. It sounded like he was
Mm,
snoring. And one of my friends was in nursing school, so she came in and started CPR. It took, the ambulance about 30 minutes to finally administer the Narcan, which is a drug that can reverse the effects of opiates. So
mm,
it's supposed to be like an overdose reverser. And the second he walked in, the EMS guy walked in, I told him, I was like, he needs Narcan. He's taken an opiate and an over the counter acetaminophen medicine. He needs Narcan. And he said, "Well, I'll figure that out. It's my job, not yours."
yeah.
And I was like floored. Unfortunately, at that time, like opiates were still, it was still a very big stigma, like everybody just thought of people who did pain pills as junkies. And so
Mm.
I think maybe the EMS worker, I don't know what he thought, but for whatever
I just think
reason,
people in professions or in certain uniforms don't like to be told what to do.
yeah,
And they
a
sort of were
control
like,
issue.
yeah, and they're like, "No, I'm the authority here. Like, I
Yeah,
know what
I'll
I'm doing. You
decide
don't
what
tell
to
me how to
do.
do my job."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, he didn't administer the Narcan for 30 minutes. So by the time he did, my fiance started breathing again. But at that point, he'd been without oxygen for about 45 minutes to
Mm.
almost an hour. And the
Yeah.
brain starts to die once you don't have oxygen
Yeah.
going to it. And so we had him on life support for a week. And then we made the decision to donate his organs.
Mm.
And because he was an organ donor, and that was
Mhm.
very important to him.
Yeah.
So I decided to take him off life support. His parents supported whatever decision I wanted to make.
Okay.
And we made that decision together. We took him off life support and donated his organs. But in my mind, had he told me the truth from the very beginning, because it took a lot of me like coaxing him to finally tell me what he had taken,
Mhm.
had he told me from the very beginning, I would have been able to do something. This is what I was thinking. I thought I would have been able to do something to save him. The truth of the matter is, God has a plan written for us. And unfortunately, like that was part of his and my story.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be where I am today had I not gone through that. Do I wish he was
That's a
still here?
situation where
Yes.
you could feel
But I
controlless,
could
hopeless.
exactly. I
Yeah.
there was nothing that I could have done that would have changed it. Like it once he took that pill, like it was in his system and
It
there
was
wasn't a whole
done.
lot that I
Yeah.
could do to control that. However, my mind told me that had I had more control of the situation, he would have lived.
Mm.
And so after his death, I got into another relationship and I was in that relationship for about 4.5, 5 years. And then I met my husband shortly after
But
that
in that
relationship.
relationship,
I
there was
was a
control.
control freak.
Okay, and that's
And
understandable because
yes.
you didn't have any control of what
No.
happened in the previous relationship.
Yeah.
So now you took control into
I
your own
was
hands because that was the
yes.
only way that you could feel
Mhm.
not having to lose someone else that you
Yes.
love. And
Yes.
sometimes we do that, we clinch, we hold someone so tight, or we try to control every
Mhm.
aspect of the relationship, whether it's a friendship or a you know, relationship,
Yeah.
because we don't want to lose that person.
Mhm. So
And
we hold them
yeah,
and
and
we
yes,
try to keep them.
and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad in
Yeah.
the way that you come about it.
Yeah.
That can be very toxic. So how
Mhm.
did you come?
So
How were
I in
you
that
controlling?
so in that relationship, he smoked weed, he did marijuana, and
Okay.
he drank, and he was a musician. And
Mm,
so that meant a lot of late nights out at the bar, a lot of like hanging out with other musicians.
mm,
And in my mind, I wanted to help him live a sober lifestyle like I did and
mhm,
not lose him to drugs and alcohol like I lost my fiance to drugs and alcohol.
mhm,
But the way that I did it was trying to control where he went, who he went with, how long he was out.
But that's not a bad thing
No,
in some way.
right. But it
In
was
some way.
unhealthy for me and it was unhealthy for him
Yeah.
because I spent a lot of time crying, being upset because I could not control him because he was an adult.
Mhm.
And when people are doing drugs and alcohol, you cannot force them to get clean. They have to get clean on their
It
own.
has to be their own will,
Right.
yeah.
And I
Mm.
was trying to force my will onto him. Right.
Mm.
And so it took a lot of, he was the one that was like, you need therapy. And so,
No.
yes, yes,
You're a
and I
control
do.
freak. You're
Yeah.
controlling my life. You're
And
doing
at first,
it.
I was like, "You're just being a narcissist, like, you don't wanna admit that what you're doing is hurting me, and you're trying to deflect it back on
Yeah.
me," but the fact was I did need therapy, and I did
Mm.
go to therapy.
You because you were
I was still healing from the
yes.
death of my
Yeah.
fiancé, and so I did. I did a lot of
But you
therapy.
telling me but you not wanting him in certain
Right,
places, in certain area with certain people was for his own
right,
good because you wanted a good person, a healthy, he
yeah,
didn't know what was good for him.
right, he didn't.
And he was just out there doing drugs and alcohol and
Yeah,
other things. Now, it's different when you don't have those habits.
yeah,
When you don't smoke, you don't drink, and people still want you away from other people
yeah. That's a
because
totally
their
different thing. Yeah,
insecurity or their ego and their pride is like, I don't want you talking to men.
yeah,
I don't want you hanging out with those friends because I just don't like them.
yeah,
They're bad influences for you.
yeah.
I know what's best for you. So they manipulate you and they try to control your every move, even how
Mhm.
you dress, how you speak, how you walk, what you
Everything.
eat,
Yeah,
everything about your life.
that
And
has
that's
moved
like,
past control
yeah.
to manipulation and
And,
abuse. Like
okay.
that is
Hmm.
where that line, there's a fine line
Hmm.
between
But that's still
caring,
control, right?
controlling, and yeah, and
Yeah.
then abusive control,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, um, oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. I was gonna try to wrap up that piece, but oh
Okay.
yeah, because you asked me how
Yeah.
I overcame.
Yes.
Yes.
How?
So
Did you get the help that you
yes,
needed?
I went
Okay.
into
Good.
therapy and I finally figured out
Mm.
that my need for control in relationships was rooted in the fact that I thought that I could control that I rooted in the fact that I thought that I had lost control when my fiance died and now I was trying to control all the men in my life, all the people in my life and by making them be sober so that I wouldn't have to worry about an overdose ever again. And
Mhm.
so now it has changed. And I'm glad I went through therapy. It took a lot of prayer. Um, it took a lot of healing. I spent a lot of time learning how to trust God with every aspect of my life. Yes.
Yeah.
And when my daughter's dad went to prison, I was so concerned with making sure that she had a father figure that
Okay.
I was blind to some things with my fiance in the beginning
Mm.
that could have kept us from going down this path. And God really revealed that to me, like as I was asking God to help me give up control, like God help me not need to be in control. And his answer was constantly, "Do you trust me?"
Mhm.
And I would say, "Yes, I trust you."
Yeah.
But the fact was that no, I didn't. I was a single mom and I didn't trust God to be the father that my daughter needed. I didn't
Mm.
trust God to be the husband that I needed. I didn't trust God to be the provider that I needed
You didn't trust
financially.
God with your life.
Right.
Yeah.
I trusted God superficially, but I
Mhm.
didn't trust him with the actual details
With
of my life.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it started to become this constant prayer of mine of when I would start to take control back from God, of praying, "No, God, I give you control and I'm
Yeah.
not going to worry about it."
Mm.
And so that was how I started to unravel needing to have control.
Mm. So letting go of control is really hard
Mhm.
because it's a constant thing that you have to practice.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, here you're in control because God is always in
Mhm.
control. And that's the
Yeah.
truth. Like you can only control how you react to situations,
Right.
to people, to you can control yourself. That's all you can do. Okay? And even that is really hard. But having to submit your life, everything to God
It's
is really
scary.
hard, especially when you are a new Christian.
Yes. Yeah.
When you're like, okay, I trust you, God, but or I want to trust you, or I'm trying to trust you, but you're still surrendering. You still have to
Mhm.
let it go. And the more you build a relationship with God, the more you walk with Him, the more you can trust Him and know that He
Yeah.
is in control and
Mhm.
He's got you and you're not alone. And He's not
Yeah.
going to let you fall
Yeah.
into certain things without equipping you.
Right.
So,
Yeah. He puts that harness on you. He
mhm,
asks you to give up control.
yeah.
But I always like to use the metaphor, and this is how I see it in my own mind, is like if you're going to bungee jump off of a cliff, right?
Oh, I'm not gonna
Like
bungee jump. I'm scared of heights. So for
but
me, that's no. That's
it
I think I would want to do that, because I'm scared of heights. So
yeah.
I that controls me. The fear of heights control me. I can only. So
That's
when we
a
go to concerts, I don't
mhm.
say this, but we've gone to concerts just with some of our friends, and we got in the nosebleed seats, and
Rosie's prayers worked.
really, I'm over here sweating. Like I try to act calm and I'm over here like this, but my palms are sweaty. Like I smell bad because when you're nervous or you're scared, a different scent comes out of your whole body. Okay.
Yes.
Fear.
Yeah, the fear pheromone
Yes.
comes out.
So for me, I'm just like, but I want to go bungee jumping one day
Yeah. It
because
might
I
help you.
because I want to release that fear. And the
Mhm.
reason why that fear controls me, the fear of heights,
Mhm.
is because when I was little, there was like so I was born in Mexico
Yeah.
and brought here when I was 7. So when I was little, my dad had this house in this small town. And in that house, he had this room that was like a corn it was just the corn room where they put all the corn and they just save it. And
Yeah.
I mean, my I come from a long line of farmers. And so yeah. So anyways, um this corn room was open from the top where it was
Oh, yeah,
just corn. You
because
lay
they
on the
would
yeah.
dump it in there from
Yeah.
the roof.
And
Yeah.
you lay on top of the well, at least I was laying on top of the corn, which now that I think about it, that was so unsafe because I could have come down and I would have died inside the corn.
Yeah. Was
But
it already kernel? Like, had they already pulled it
yeah.
off the cob?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was literally like a grain storage
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
Mhm. It wasn't the corn on the
Those are
top. No.
so dangerous.
So dangerous. I
Rosie.
didn't know any better. I was a child, okay? So that's just I had bad parents, okay?
Oh
Yeah.
my
So
gosh.
listen, I don't know how. I think there must have been a ladder, but I got on there and I just remember I would play with it and then I looked down. The only thing I remember was looking down. And then I woke up when I was on the floor. I was on the floor
Oh.
laying down for hours. This was early in the morning when I was playing with the corn.
Yeah.
I woke up in the evening and I was sleeping for hours. My mom thought I was so tired because I remember her passing by and I remember being on the ground like this. Um, I can't remember if it was this side, but I still have like a crack on my skull.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So that's why I feel like sometimes I feel pressure. It's weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I remember just being on the floor and opening my eye and seeing the shadow of my mom walking past and I just closed my eye again. I had a concussion the whole
Yeah.
for a while and my mom
You had
my
a fractured
I didn't
skull,
I
Rosie.
didn't know this. I could have died. I could have
Yeah.
died.
You could have.
There's so many situations where I could have died as a child, but
Yeah.
by the grace and the love of God, I am
You're
here.
here for a
I am a
reason. Yeah,
survivor. But
exactly.
but I don't have any control of that. God
Right.
does. You see, because I could have died.
Yeah.
And God was like, no, I'm in control. I need you to be alive. You're
Yeah.
here. So
Does your fear of heights keep you from experiencing things?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I am so terrified of heights
Okay.
because of that same reason.
Yeah.
So I could look at a building and be like, I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to the Willis Tower in Chicago,
Yeah.
and because my husband, when we were dating, he was like, I want to go up there because I grew up in Chicago and he was
Yeah.
visiting from Texas, and he's like, I
Yeah.
want to go up there, and I said, oh, what if a plane just goes and just the tower? And I was like, that's evil to think, but I am scared of heights, and then
Yeah.
anything can happen in a city
But
where
that's what
there's
our
like,
brain does, is
yeah,
it takes that fear.
mm-hmm,
Like, I'm afraid of snakes. I try not to let my fear of snakes control my
control you,
life,
yeah,
but sometimes it does. So I will like cut an activity short because the fear of the snake starts to mount and rise, and then I have this like irrational fear that there's going to be a lake full of snakes, and I have to get out of the
yeah.
water. But that is,
Your coping mechanism trying to keep
yeah,
you
to
late.
keep you
Yeah,
safe. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that's what I did. I said, okay, and he knew I was scared of heights. So I told him, okay, we're going to go up there, but no more than 15 minutes. We'll go up there and we get down as soon as we can. Okay. We go there, we sit on the thing, or you sit on the thing. I take a picture. Let's go. We spent about 45 minutes up there once we were up there
Yeah.
because I had to constantly tell myself I wasn't there. I
Uh,
wasn't, I was closer to the ground.
mhm.
And when I did sit on the window, the glass window, I said, "Okay, I'm going to sit on this thing." And I took a deep breath and I'm like, "Go, take a picture." So I'm sitting like this and I'm like,
Looking calm, but you're
yeah,
not. You're dying inside.
inside I'm like, "Lord, oh my God, if it's today is today, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, let it be."
Yeah.
But and
And
then yeah.
that's so you said, Lord, if today's the day, let it be. Um, that
Surrender.
surrendering. So I always tell people who are super, super anxious, and I know like anxiety is a real disorder, like
Yeah.
it's real. I know
Fear,
that.
anxiety can control your
Yes.
life. Depression can control
Mhm.
your life. Did I say fear?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
But if you actually sit down and start to unravel anxiety, a lot of times it is rooted in some sort of fear that
Mhm.
has not been dealt with.
Yeah.
Um, and for like new moms, I know new moms, like anxiety is a real thing. And
Mhm.
we have so many people on medication for anxiety. But a lot of times it is rooted in a fear that
Mhm.
we have not processed. And you know the root cause of your fear of heights.
Mhm.
I don't know the root cause of my
Yeah.
fear of snakes. I've always been afraid of them. But yeah, so getting down to the root cause of your fear can, or your control, will oftentimes reveal that a fear is at the root. And if you can unravel that, because our brain, just like your brain when you were at the top of the Willis Tower was telling you that a plane was going to come and crash into the Willis Tower, like we've been alive 30 something years. I'm almost 40.
Speak
And
for yourself, sister. I'm 25.
and only
I'm
what
not.
twice in our lifetime has a plane crashed into a
Mm,
building, right?
yeah.
Like it was 9/11, it was traumatic, but it has been a once in a lifetime experience for you and I.
But
But
but you see how that works,
yes.
right? And I think you're okay. I'm gonna
Yeah,
let you
I think
finish.
we're going down the
You
same to the
talk,
same
please.
place.
You talk. I'm just
But your
gonna drink my
brain
coffee.
takes your little, your, and I mean little, like it started out small, right? The
Mhm.
experience was you fell off of a ladder or you fell off of a roof and hit
Mhm.
your head.
Yeah.
That was one tiny,
Incident.
tiny experience, one
Mhm.
tiny incident on the huge radar of your life. Like your life has been this big, and you falling was this tiny little pinpoint on the timeline. Right. But
I'm sorry.
but your brain has blown it up
Yeah.
so big that you, Rosie, are going to be in the building that is going to get hit by a plane for the first time in what, 20 something years. But that's what our brain does. It catastrophizes
Stop it.
the things that drive our control issues.
Yeah.
And it makes it huge. And then we allow it to control every aspect of our life.
And then from that thought, another thought creeps in, and then something else, and then
Uh-huh.
something else. And then it's like, oh my God, now you're in a
snowballs.
bubble of control of like fear
Fear.
and anxiety and all these things that are
Having to
probably never going to
control.
happen
Right.
again.
And you're having to control everything.
And you're
And that
like,
makes you anxious.
and then you'll miss out on great experiences,
Mhm.
friendships, or adventures because that was controlling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I, as a Christian, believe that that is the enemy's end game goal, is to keep us from
Stuck.
experiencing and
Change.
doing the things that God has called us to do
Mm-hmm.
through fear,
Mm-hmm.
control, and anxiety.
Yeah. Mm.
And so we've talked about like losing control, right? Like giving.
Yeah.
So like we lost control as kids. So then
Yeah.
we took control as adults. But how do you give control back to God to bring some peace into your life?
I guess, well, the way that I do it, I'm just like, okay, you know what? Because when I try to control everything or anything,
Mm-hmm.
it's a mess.
Yeah.
I'm not the author of my life.
Yeah.
God is. So when I try to do that, it's like, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But
we screw things up. We're not.
yeah.
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 When we take control.
Mm-hmm. Nothing comes out right.
No.
You're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're
Mhm.
angry. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But then
You drink too much.
mm-hmm.
You start smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's letting go. It's so hard, so hard, but you have to take
Mhm.
baby steps, just like
Yeah.
us. Like how when we were first baby Christians, like we want to trust you, God. We know that we should, but how do we do this?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, God, I trust you, but do I really? But then you're like, okay, you just have to let go.
Mhm.
It's like a catch and release. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I was going to
like
say it's really easy to say you just have to let go.
yeah,
But what does that actually look like? Because
yeah,
I feel like pastors, people always say just let it go and let God.
yeah.
But what does that
Mm-hmm.
actually look like day to day?
Submitting it to God.
Mhm.
So let me tell you something. My husband and I were separated for like what seemed like 3 months. Actually, it was like 3 months or so, but it seemed like a lifetime, right?
Mhm.
I didn't have any control of that, and it was driving me nuts because I wanted him back. I wanted it to work so bad, and I didn't know what my future looked like, and I was so afraid for my life and my kids because you just never know. And being a single mom is so scary in so many ways.
Mhm.
So the fear of the unknown is scary. When you're not in control is scary because you can't control anything. So one thing I had to do constantly was saying, God, he is your child. This is your marriage. I am your child. These are
Yeah.
your children. Like, you're in control. I cannot control anything. I can't even keep him with me.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do anything. So I had to constantly say, God, I am your child. This is for you. I had to constantly submit everything to
Yeah.
him. And it takes a lot of crying to
Yeah.
just let it go. When you're wrestling with your feelings and yourself and your thoughts, you have to you're going to cry a lot, but you just have to keep on just submitting
Pushing
it,
through. Yeah.
pushing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Every
Mhm.
time you try to retake control, stopping and saying, God, I'm trying to take control of this again, and I don't want to. It is your thing to control.
Yeah.
Take it from me.
Because obviously when it was in my hands, it didn't work out.
Right.
It was not happening.
Yeah.
So, but once you know that the Father is in control of everything because He orders all your steps and He is
Mhm.
the light to your feet and He created you, and you realize that it's so much easier to walk when you're not alone and He's got you,
Mhm.
and you don't have to do this alone.
Right.
And He's not going to put you in any situation without equipping you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to constantly put the armor of God on
Mhm.
every single day and know that, like, okay,
Do you know the
I'm not in
armor of God?
control.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I can't
Ephesians 6:10.
Yeah, I can't ever remember all of it.
Ephesians 6:10 is the helmet. Wait, I think it's the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the belt of truth, the sword of the spirit, and the shoes of gospel.
Yeah.
So Ephesians 6:10.
Okay. I
So
figured you'd know it because you have
yeah.
kiddos, young age, and I don't remember it. I remember teaching
Yeah.
it to say it, but I don't remember what helmet
Yeah.
is.
So it's really good. Look it up. And
Yeah.
then you'll realize that God doesn't let you go through anything by yourself. So He's in control, but He also equips you to
Mhm.
walk through all those things that you're afraid of. So you're
Yeah.
not just naked. You're
Yeah. You don't
God,
go into
yeah,
battle naked. Yeah,
alone.
you
Yeah.
have that whole armor of God.
Mm-hmm.
His word, his wisdom, his spirit,
Yeah.
like all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to we're talking about like God and giving up control and giving it to God.
Submitting it, yeah, to
Yes.
God.
But I want to talk about that in a like tangible real world way
Okay.
because God for some people is abstract
Mm-hmm.
and they need more concrete. Like what does this actually look like in life? So for me, giving up control of finances when I married my husband was
Mm-hmm.
really hard because I'd been a single mom. I'd always controlled my own checkbook. I'd always paid
Mm-hmm.
my own bills. And now my husband pays the mortgage, my husband pays the bills, all the
Okay.
bills are in his name. I don't even know who we have insurance through half the time. Like, I am in zero control. Like, the people at Walmart that will
Mm-hmm.
stop you and say, "Hey, who is your internet company?" or "Hey, who's your power company?" And I tell them, "I have no idea. My husband handles all of that." It's not a ploy to get them to leave me alone. It's the God's honest truth. I don't know. I don't know who our
I don't
electric
know and I
company.
don't care, okay? He's got it.
Yeah, exactly. And me 10 years ago, before I met my husband, we're going on almost 10 years of knowing each other.
Mm.
Um, 8 years of dating this year and
Oh,
5
wow.
years married. So,
5
like,
years married. Me and my
yes.
husband have been married for 5 years also.
Really?
Yeah, 5
Ah.
years. This year, we were 5 years. In May.
Oh, see,
In
ours
May.
is July.
Oh.
But yeah, so
We
it
need to
has
go
been
on a double
we
date.
do. We need
We
to
can
do some
control that, okay?
yes, we
We can
can.
control the food, the outfits, and all of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
but so giving up control to him was so hard. It was so hard.
Yeah.
Like for the like first little while after he took over like all the bills. It was when we bought this house.
Mm.
I would constantly be like, "Hey, did you pay the electric bill? Hey, did you do blah blah blah?" He's like, "Yes, I got it
Yes,
under
mom.
control. I just need you to send me your half because we used
Just
to split
relax.
everything straight down the middle."
Mhm.
Yeah, and he would say, "Just send me the money. I'll make sure it's taken care of."
Mm.
And that was really hard for me.
Yeah.
And it took almost a year of that for me to finally trust him with it.
Mhm.
And now I don't even give it a second thought.
It was really hard for me to do the same thing as well because I was very independent.
Yeah.
Um, so for me to give up that kind of freedom or, control to my
Mhm.
husband once we got together and I had to be a stay-home mom and raise her two kids, it was hard too because I was like, oh, um, I trust you, but I don't trust you like that.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
trust you only with certain things, not everything.
Mhm.
And that's how our relationship is with God. We trust God only with some things,
But
not
not everything.
everything,
And he calls
as
us
we
to trust
should.
him with everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think I may have a Bible verse, but you keep talking and I'll look for
Okay.
it. Okay, so I have this Bible verse that says it's Joshua 1:9. It says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." In
Yes.
Spanish, it is Josue 1:9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so this is a good Bible verse because it says that it's saying you can be strong and
Mhm.
courageous, that God is with you wherever you go. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And this one is also like the pain that you've been feeling can't compare to the joy that's coming. This is
Yes.
Romans 8:18.
Yeah.
And I love this one too because when we submit our problems, everything that we cannot control,
Mhm.
our lives, when we submit it to God, God turns that pain into joy, into happiness, into love. So
Yes.
that's what that means to me.
Yeah.
Here's another one. And this is one that I remember for when I was about to get baptized as a Christian because I was just like, oh, but I don't want to get baptized and be like one of those annoying
Right.
freaks, right?
Mhm.
But as I was reading, this verse came to me, and I was just like, ooh. So this is Matthew 16:25. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it.
Yeah.
So this is you submitting every single fiber of your being to God
Yeah.
and just saying, you know what, God, my life is for you.
Yes.
Letting it go
Yeah.
is so hard. So
Yeah.
hard.
Letting go of control.
Yeah.
Um, that should be in the title because we've talked about letting go of control, getting control back in unhealthy ways
Mhm.
by by using control.
Mhm.
Uh we talked about it in our childhoods, how we lost control in our childhoods and we took it
Mhm.
back by wielding control over various aspects of our lives.
Mhm.
And then we talked about taking back control when someone has taken control from you. Did I already say that? Giving back, taking, giving it up, taking it back. And um, I just went in a circle. What have we talked about?
We've been talking
Guys,
about control.
Rosie and I are both so tired.
Control, giving
Yes.
it up and taking it back.
Giving it up and
Yeah.
taking it back. But yeah, we talked about taking it back
Mhm.
as adults after a traumatic childhood experience or after a relationship that has taken control from you.
The way you take control back into your life is realizing that you are not in control and you can't control anything but
Mhm.
yourself, how you
Yeah.
react to situations, people, and life.
Hmm.
That's how you take control back.
Yeah.
By letting go and knowing that nothing's ever going to be perfect. You can't control anybody, any situation, any relationship.
Mhm.
You can't control how the weather's going to come out, anything but yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that's how you take control back.
So, what does that look like for you?
Not giving a not caring. Caring but being like, "You know what? It is what it is
Yeah.
no matter what." I mean,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I take control back with my fear of snakes by doing the things that I am afraid to do,
Mhm.
but being careful, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm not just going to go like step in a pit of snakes.
Yeah, in a bag
No.
full of snakes.
Yeah, no. But I'm not going to let it
No.
keep me from doing things.
Yeah.
I am more
Mhm.
careful and more cognizant like when we go on hikes or like we're going to the river next month for our anniversary.
Mm.
Like I could very easily keep my let my fear of snakes keep me and control
From
me
living your
from
best
living
life.
my
Yeah.
best life and not going on this river trip
Mhm.
because there might be snakes. But instead, I'm just going to go and I'm going to be careful and I'm going to watch out under rocks and not like randomly grab things. But that's
Yeah.
me taking back control
Mhm.
over my life and not letting my fear of snakes control my life.
Stop you from living, yeah. So I wanna go on a hot air balloon one day, and I
Mhm.
also wanna go bungee jumping, and I also wanna throw myself out of a plane.
Ah.
Is that does that isn't that crazy how I, because I'm a very adventurous person
Yeah.
and I love to do things at least
Mhm.
just once.
Yeah.
Well, I forever I wanted to do that because it looks so free and it
Yeah.
looks so fun. And I guess I'm an adrenaline junkie too.
Yes, you are. My husband is afraid of heights and he jumped out of a plane
Yeah.
and he said it wasn't that bad. Like it's
I
terrifying. The
think it's
most
just the thought.
terrifying, yeah, he said the
Yeah.
most terrifying part was the airplane that you take to go
Yeah.
actually
Because once you're
skydive.
there, you're there. I
Yeah.
mean, ooh, yeah.
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 So, all right, what else? Let's see. We covered giving up control and taking it back. We
Mhm.
covered giving up control to God, which I
Mhm.
feel like is the ultimate freedom.
Mhm.
I I am a Christian. I truly believe that you cannot be truly free unless you are free in God.
Yeah.
That's me. I know a lot of people who aren't Christians and aren't free. It
Mm-mm.
is so freeing to know that you are in God's hands and that He's got every part of you under His control.
Mhm.
And you are free to live life and follow your purpose and follow your passions that He has planted in you
Yeah.
for His glory. Like, that is so freeing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like, so freeing. I used to always be worried about money. I used to always be worried about my daughter dying or my husband dying when we were engaged. Like,
Mhm.
now I know that God's got me
Mhm. He's gonna
financially.
make a way
Yeah.
in everything. He's gonna provide. He's gonna equip you. He's
Mhm.
gonna bless you. He's gonna make things that are crazy
Yeah.
just happen.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
firmly stand on all things work together for the good of those who are called to his purpose, like for those who love
Oh,
God and who
yeah.
are called to his purpose.
Mhm.
And I can rest in that verse because I am called to his purpose and I
Yeah.
walk in my purpose that he's set for my life and I
Mhm.
trust in him.
Yeah.
And that is like the most freeing thing. I'm no
Mm.
longer like I'm no longer a control freak.
It just reminds me of that song, I'm no longer a slave.
Mhm.
I am a child of
Of God.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's so many good worship songs that just come to my mind where
Yeah.
you're like just letting it go. And if you're like me, when you worship, you just cry, you bawl
Yeah.
your eyes out.
Yeah.
That's me, and
Ugly
it's just
cry during
and
worship.
yeah, and it's just letting it
It's that
go. It's a
release.
constant letting it go, freeing, and afterwards you feel so much lighter.
Mhm.
You feel so much better because you're like, here, God, you take it.
Yeah.
You take it.
So let's end with your top 3 tips
Mm,
for releasing control when um when you feel that anxiousness creeping in where you want to take back control of everything because everything feels out of control.
yeah.
What do you do? What are your top 3 tips or 2, whatever, for
Okay. Prayer, worship, reading the Bible, talking to a friend, because all of that help with
Mhm.
you letting it out and it gets you out of that mindset where you feel like you need to take control of everything
Mhm.
and just facing it.
Mhm. Those are all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine are similar. Prayer, worship,
Hmm.
um, changing the words that you say to yourself
Yeah.
is mine, like big one. Because if you say, I can't do that because I'm afraid of blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
or don't, you restrict yourself based on fear or the need to control. If
Hmm.
you change the way that you talk to yourself in that situation, you're signaling to your brain that things can be different and your brain will make them different.
Yeah.
And then,
You have to rewire your brain.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. And then when you feel like you need to control things or you feel like you are being controlled and that makes you feel out of control, removing yourself from the situation.
Helps. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do when I feel like I can't control certain things and I want to. I
Mhm.
just take a deep breath and do something
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
guys, we have a lot of great stuff coming in the pipeline. We are currently waiting to record with Arthur. If you don't know Arthur, if you haven't heard his story, he's on the podcast twice. He was on season 1 and season 2. Go back and listen to his episodes. I believe one was on authenticity after he came back from a trip to Spain, and he had a lot of time to reflect on being authentic and being the same outside of church as you are inside a church,
Mm.
and being authentic in all parts of your life. And he actually has a podcast called Outside the Church Walls where they talk about that exact thing, about being authentic and being the same inside the church as you are outside the church. And then we are also hopefully going to be interviewing Joe. He was on the podcast. His episodes were growing up Latino and being sober
Mm.
or something like that, because we were talking about being a sober Latino. And then he also had an episode about intentionally dating as a Christian. So if you haven't heard those 4 episodes, I highly suggest you go back and listen to them, because both of those guys are 2 of my favorite guys on the planet aside from my hubs. I love them. They're hilarious, they're loving, they're caring, they are wonderful humans, and they're both going to be on talking about men's health and men's mental health.
Mm.
So that those 2 episodes will be coming out before the end of June. We're gonna
I
probably
love
drop,
that. I
yeah,
can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to them
yeah.
and how they just overcome things and
Hmm.
navigated certain life situations and
Oh, they
yeah,
have
and how they
powerful
just
stories.
live their life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're both passionate about mental health. Arthur is
I love
super
that.
passionate about being
Yeah.
healthy and being fit.
hmm
He works out. I tease that he's a gym rat.
Gym rat.
Yeah. And he will tell you that he probably is.
Mhm.
But so those 2 guys will be on before the end of June. We'll probably drop a bonus episode so that we can get both of those in for uh Men's Health Month for June. So make sure you like and subscribe.
Yeah, stay tuned and thank you so much for um walking with us through this journey
Mm-hmm.
and please continue to share and support and show some love by hitting that subscribe button and yeah, if you
Yeah.
know a friend that needs to hear this episode, go ahead and share with them. And if you want to talk to us, don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're always available, or if we're busy, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And we just love hearing from you. So, yeah, thank you so much for all the love and support, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Bye.